I forgot to turn my mic on, so I was a little late on that. Man, what a week! It's been an interesting week. Today was kind of a crappy day. Not for me. The shooting in Pittsburgh at the synagogue, that's awful. And then the rest of the week, the politicians won't shut up. I'm ready for them to go home. I don't know. Look, it's been a distracting, weird, crazy time. We've done something like 10 or 11 funerals in the last 21 days. So I'm going to do this out of order. I'm going to pray real quick for all of us, just so that we can focus tonight. How's that? We're feeling all right. Dear God, I just thank you for this time. I pray that you would make it holy. I pray that it would be set apart from all the other junk that we have to deal with. And God, I just pray that you would that you'd speak to all of us tonight. And I pray that we come out of here excited about what's going on, and excited about you, and excited about our families. That's what we've been talking about, is family. So God, I just pray that you'd encourage us, you'd let us focus, you'd remind us of what matters. We love you and we thank you. Amen. All right. So now I got to get to the part that I was supposed to do. Some of you have probably been wondering where Pastor Brandon is. You guys know who he is? He's a Marine guy with a big beard. I'm trying to take his place with the beard, but I got splotchy stuff going on. You can see it, actually. So I can't grow a beard like him. We miss his beard, not him so much. I'm just playing. Here's the deal. Let me explain to you kind of what's going on with him, and then I'm going to have you watch a video, all right? Is that cool? We got one more video. So what's been going on with him is he left, but he didn't leave the network. He left La Plata. He is actually at one of the churches we brought into the network called Fred West. It's Fredericksburg Wesleyan Church. And what he's doing is he's the assistant pastor down there, and he's eventually, the whole church knows this, eventually they're going to transition, and Brandon will be the senior pastor of Fredericksburg Wesleyan Church. So you'll see, yeah, that's awesome. You'll hear a little bit of the story in the video, but what you need to know is that the pastor down there, Pastor Brad, came to us and said, hey, I'm getting up there a little bit, and I think it'd probably be good for me to transition into a more assistant role. And so since that's the case, how about we partner? Because he had heard that we were looking at possibly planting a church down there. So we did. And the church has welcomed him with open arms, and we got that going on. We're really excited about it. Pastor Brandon is a dynamic leader, and Pastor Brad is one of the most humble and kind and intelligent men I've ever met in my life. So he and Pastor Aaron have a lot in common. They probably knew each other for a long time, but the Wesleyan Church is a very small pond. So anyway, I said all of that to say that's kind of where he's at. We want you to watch this video, and we're going to introduce that church to you tonight.
We came to the church on Easter and instantly just felt like we belonged.
Our founding pastor planted the church with the vision of us eventually being a church planting station ourselves.
So we've had to kind of fix the way that we've been viewing our church and how it's been running, because we've been a very small church and it's been very close, but there's a big audience here in Fredericksburg that needs somewhere they can go and feel welcome no matter what.
God called me here really with the vision of being the transitional guy to get the church established and stable, and then to eventually hand it off.
Pastor Robert came to me and he said, if you want to start a church plant, because he knew that's what was on my heart, I wanted to plant a church. And he said, but I know your heart's in Fredericksburg. If you want to start looking at a church plant in Fredericksburg, go ahead. I'm not going to get in your way. So I immediately saw the Fred West's old building was up for sale as I drove by Route 1, and I looked at it and I said, we can start a church in there.
Pastor Brad saw that the New Life had announced that they were planting a church in Fredericksburg.
I investigated that and found out that Brandon was the guy that they were going to send. I found out he lived 5 minutes away from me. So we contacted each other, and I shared with him what God had been doing in my life.
He came in and he just said, instead of planting a church, would you like to come alongside of me? Would you like to come along and work with me?
And then somewhere down the road, a year and a half, 2 years, we would just simply change positions. He'd be the lead guy. Everything that I had felt God had called me here to do could be accomplished by partnering with the network.
I know some people are intimidated by the word network. Pastor Mike and Pastor Robert came to our church and they met with Pastor Brad, and everybody from the congregation was invited to come. So a lot of people were there, and we were able to ask our questions for things that we were concerned about and that we were wondering how this would play out and what it would mean. And I think a lot of minds were put at ease because it was a pretty unanimous vote that night.
I was excited to join the network because they have a track record of planting churches.
The goal is to just keep full steam ahead doing everything we're already doing.
We were gifted the land that we have by the developer, and we've been moving closer and closer to our goal, which is $250,000 to get the land developed. And the timeline for that was about 5 to 7 years, and it's been scooted up exponentially to about 1 to 2 years.
The timing, the fit, the ministry matchup, only God can do something like that.
They are speeding up our process of where we want to be as a church so that we can start planting other churches. My daughters, I want them to learn about the love of Jesus and be able to be that to other people in the community. If our church can teach them that, then that's what we want. That's why we're here.
All right. So if the ushers can come on down, look, I'm going to give you the spiel on this. What you need to know is that what you give is impacting the kingdom of God in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Right? This is one of the fastest growing suburbs of D.C. And so it's an amazing thing. We're only able to do things like this because you're generous. And as a church, we're having a far-reaching impact. It's not just Charles County. It's pretty much the whole D.C. metro area. I don't know if you know this, but there's a church in Fredericksburg now that we work with. There's a church in Gainesville. There's a church in Alexandria. There's one in Glen Burnie, Maryland. There's one in Calvert County. There's another one in Calvert County. You see what I'm saying? And God's done all of this through you. God's done all of this through you. So we don't have anything to do with it, really. It's God's plan, and it's your hands and feet. So I just want to say on behalf of them, thank you. All right? I'm going to pray for this again real quick. Let's go. Dear God, thank you for just being able to give. Thank you for this time. And God, I just pray that you would bless each gift and bless each giver, and that God, that you'd turn pennies into dollars today. Not because we are running out and not because we want to get rich, but because we want to see you made famous. We love you. Amen. All right. So we've been talking about, the series is Home Base, right? And we've been talking about some of that. What I want to do for you today is I want to talk a little bit about the tensions that we have to live in. I don't know a whole lot about building a family, so this is a little bit intimidating. My first one's on the way. Yeah. So, update on her. She is like 5 pounds now because my wife loves ultrasound. So we've had like 12. She's like 5 pounds now. And unfortunately for her, they say she has my nose and my face. Hopefully she comes out a lot prettier than that. But we're excited. And so I don't know a whole lot about building a family, though, but I know a whole lot about being in one. And I happen to be in a pretty good one. And I don't mean that in any kind of like, I don't know, braggy way, arrogant way. I happen to be in a pretty good one. Like, I've just been blessed. And not just like my immediate family, we all kind of live around here. We hang out on a regular basis, all of that. But like my extended family is amazing. They're amazing. Every Christmas we still get together and we still hang out with like second cousins and stuff. That's not necessarily all that normal. And I've just been blessed with that. So I know a little bit about living in a good family. I don't know a whole lot about building one. So what I want to do is share with you some observations of tensions you have to live in, I guess, in a good family. I don't know. These are just tensions I've experienced. And hopefully that'll hopefully the lessons that I've learned will translate to you. All right. So that's really what we got moving forward here. So one thing that I want you to do is repeat after me. I know Pastor Mike does this all the time, and it's never as cool when any of us do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So repeat after me. You cannot have success without tension. How many of you know that's true? That's 100% true. Like, even if you're starting fresh, you have the tension of what could be versus what is, which is absolutely nothing. And when you're starting from the middle, you got the tension of what could be versus what is, which is either good, bad, or indifferent, but it still is, right? You can't have success without tension. You can't have a strong family without tension. Repeat after me. You can't have a strong family without tension. I don't mean that you guys should be arguing all the time. I might have just made some of you feel really good about yourselves for a second, though. I don't mean that. I mean, there's just tense moments, right? There's tension. And when you run away from the tension, that's not a good thing, right? You never resolve any conflict. You never take care of problems that need to be taken care of. When you run away from tension, you missed your greatest opportunities to show people you love them. You know, if you want to build a strong family, there's going to be tension. There's going to be tension. And there's some things specifically I have 4 tensions that we have to live in, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to jump out of the book of Luke. We're going to be in chapter 15, and we're going to talk about the prodigal son. Because you can't do a family series without the prodigal son. You can't do it. You're not Christian if you try. That's not true. I'm just playing. Nobody get offended and leave. I love you very much. All right, Luke chapter 15. We're going to be starting at verse 11. I'll just read this to you. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them." All right, I'm going to stop there. What you got to understand about this, you probably heard it in church a million times, is essentially what this son is telling his father is, I wish you were dead. Because if you were dead, I would have your inheritance, my inheritance. So I wish you were dead. Can you just give me my inheritance now and be dead to me forever? That's a little awkward. That's to say the least, right? And so what's going on here, though, is you have a selfish son and you have what looks like, and what we'll come to see later in the story, a loving father. So the first tension that I want to bring up is this. You have to build strong foundations. This kid knows his dad loves him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked for the money while he was still alive. He'd have killed him first. Right? He knows that this is going to work. He knows that his dad loves him. Right? He knows that his dad loves him. You don't ask for that. And knowing what that means without knowing that he's going to come through. Because otherwise, what happens? If his dad didn't love him, he's going to get kicked out of the house. Now he has nothing. He knows his dad loves him. This is a kid who has a strong foundation. You have to build strong foundations. But you're going to have to write this down too. I forgot to tell you, I changed the sermon at the last minute, so there's no lower thirds yet. All right? So you got to build strong foundations, but you got to leave room for stupid. Right? That. She knows. She knows what's up. No, you see, stupidity when we're talking about metaphorical foundations, right? Stupidity eats away at those. So often your own stupidity will eat away at those. Let's talk about physical foundations. Do you want somebody who's stupid when it comes to foundations building the foundation of your house? No, that's a bad idea, right? Because your house will fall down. But you have to make room when it comes to family, when it comes to relationships. You have to allow for some stupidity. Why? Because we're all a little stupid. We all make mistakes. We all do things that we shouldn't do. Right? You have to allow for, this is just our secret. So when I was in, fifth, actually it was sixth grade. When I was in sixth grade, I had a couple buddies, and I went to one of the Christian schools up the road, and I'm not going to tell you which one, because then you'll be able to find people I went to elementary school with, and you'll learn stories about my bowl cut and stuff. It's not cool. So, but I went to elementary school up the road, and what we would do is we used to get 10 minutes in between class, because I don't know why you'd ever give a 12-year-old 10 minutes in between class, but we used to get it. And so we would go into the bathrooms and just vandalize them. Not like spray paint or, things that normal people do. We would put toilet paper. If you're a kid in here, don't ever do this, by the way. We would put toilet paper in the sinks and clog them up and then leave the sinks running. Things that sixth graders do. Really stupid things, And one time we went in there and we got a little ambitious and we threw a trash can into the toilet. Yeah. Again, it's stupid, And so we did that, and then we got caught, and then they found out that we had been flooding the sinks. So it was like a double whammy. So we get to the principal, the acting administrator's office, right? And they all knew my parents because it's a small school, it's a Christian school. So he looked at us. And it was me and my other buddy, and he said, "Boys, I know your dads, and I know you're going to get beat when you get home." Not true, but that's what he said. And he said, "So, since you're going to get a spanking, I'm only going to give you 2 days of detention." Lucked out, right? I had to clean bathrooms for 2 days. So then he's like, "But you have to tell your dad what happened." So the first kid calls his dad, goes through, he's crying, the whole deal, right? And I'm next. So call my dad. Let my dad know, and then he hands me the phone, and my dad says, "Robert, you're in trouble with the school already. So what I want you to know is you're not in trouble for messing up the bathrooms with me. You're in trouble for giving your principal a reason to call me." Right? Because I bore his name. I bore his reputation. See, there's grace in that. Like, who you are comes from my dad, his standpoint, right? Who you are comes from who I am. You have a strong foundation. Don't screw it up. But he allowed for a little bit of stupidity and didn't come down too hard on me, right? You have to build strong foundations. You have to allow for stupid, right? It's a tension. I could have said allow for mistakes, but I just felt like stupid was more fun, All right, we'll keep moving. So we're going to start in verse 13. Not long after that, the younger son, got together all he had and set off for a distant country there he squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and get back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against you and against heaven. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired hands.' So he got up and went to his father." All right, so there's another tension hidden in here. It's not explicitly in the text, so don't attack me, but it's hidden in here. You can't be weak. You can't be weak. You have to allow for stupidity, but you can't be weak. You see, what his father didn't do is chase him down while he was living in his sin and give him more money. Now, I know this is awkward because of all the craziness going on in our society right now. I understand that. But you can't be weak, right? But you have to have grace. So you can't be weak. The father didn't chase him down, but the son, while he's laying in front of the feeding trough for the pigs. Do you understand pigs will eat anything? Like anything. When we look down on someone, we call them a pig for a reason. Pigs will eat anything. So here he is looking down at that feeding trough going, that looks good. And for whatever reason, his father had enough love and enough grace with him in his life that it struck him. He had a horrible view of himself because we come to find out the father reacts to him much better than he anticipated the father would. But he knew that his father would at least have enough grace to let him work as a servant in the field, and he could at least eat. So his father wasn't weak, and he had enough grace that his son felt he was open to come home. That's a hard tension to live in. That's a tension that, good Lord, that's a tension I hope I don't ever have to experience as a parent, right? But this is true in all relationships, right? You can't be weak. You can't be weak with people. They will walk all over you if you are weak. It's okay. It's pertinent now in politics. Everybody it felt a little weird. I'm not going to talk about anybody current, all right? I happen to love history books. I've read a bunch of biographies. There's this guy named George Herbert Walker Bush, right? And they put an article out on him in Newsweek or Time. It was titled The Wimp Factor. You can't be weak. That thing haunted him during his presidency. He was seen as a wimp, right? You can't, if you get seen as weak, you get walked on. But you have to have grace. Because if you don't have grace, you're a jerk. Right? This is a hard tension to live in. In the family scenarios now, with the opioid epidemic, right? With that, I can't fathom what some of you must be going through. I can't fathom what those choices look like. And if what I said just now, you can't be weak, but you have to have grace, if that's in any way offensive, I'm sorry. As a family here today, that's something that we should be praying about every day. Because, you have your nuclear family at home, but you have this family you come to every Saturday night. And there are a lot of people probably in this room that are silently hurting because of that. And I can't imagine what it would look like. I can't imagine what it would look like to have to do that. And I pray to God I never have to. To be honest with you, I do. But there's hope in this story. And we'll get to it by the end. There's hope in this story. Because here's the thing. In this story, we're talking about this like it's a normal family, but this is a parable. And what you have is the prodigal son is the example of a person who runs far from God. Basically, it's the example of a person who looks at God and says, God, I wish you didn't exist, but can you give me all the blessings? You can't tell me we haven't all been there. And he runs away, and God's love, in God's infinite grace and love and mercy, by the end of the story, I'm going to screw up the whole story for you, God accepts him back with open arms. There's hope. So let's just keep moving. All right. We're in verse 20. Verse 20. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son and threw his arms around him and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father said to his servants, "Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." So they began to celebrate. This is what I know about that father from the way this story unfolds. That father always kept an eye out for his son to come home. It says, while he was still a long way off, that father always kept an eye out for his son to come home. And so when he sees him, he starts running. This is the tension we have to live in. We have to mourn the losses and celebrate the wins. And too often this is what happens. Life beats you down and you forget to celebrate the wins. Because we all know what a loss feels like, and we all know how to sit in our own self-pity. But man, there are so many wins. There are so many wins in our homes. How are you ever supposed to have a happy home when you don't celebrate the wins? See, these are things that I think about and I worry about because there's a baby on the way, And all right, the roof just came off. And we're not sending the video out, so I get to say whatever I want. Man, these are the things I think about. I'm not a good sleeper. Anybody in here not a good sleeper? I mean, I know some of y'all are the type that stay up till 2 and get up at 4. That's weird. I'm not a good sleeper. I'm usually up late, and then I got to get up and go to work. And my sleep schedule is so fragile. I went to California and came back, and it messed me all up. That's only a 3-hour time difference, y'all. I did like 13 in the winter. You don't even want to know what that was like. That was like a month of recuperation. I just can't sleep right. What that means is I'm up at night, And I wonder what kind of dad am I going to be? What kind of home are we going to have? What kind of family are we going to have? And I think about that. And there's one thing that I want, probably more than anything, and it's that I just want it to be like joyful. I want there to be a lot of smiles and a lot of giggles. She's a little girl and she's my wife's daughter. There will be lots of smiles and giggles. She's also got a little bit of me, so she'll be annoying a little bit, and she'll be arguing with me at 1.5 years. But that's what I want. But what I find is you talk to people, walking around here on Sunday morning, you talk to people, and you go, "Hey, how are you?" And you get this standard, "I'm good," but there's nothing behind it. And I'm just as guilty as anybody, right? Like when you're shaking hands, which by the way, it's flu season, fist bump is what's in, all right? But when you're shaking hands with people and you're saying, "Hey, how are you doing?" and all that, I say, "Yeah, I'm good. It's great to see you." Like over and over and over again. I'm just as guilty as anybody. But you say, "I'm good," but there's nothing behind it. You see, I could be wrong, but typically what's at the front of your mind is the things that you're thinking about, and that tends to come through in your responses, you know what I mean? And so if you say to me, "I'm good," and there's really nothing behind it, it kind of feels like maybe you're not so good. How much celebrating are we actually doing? I mean, we actually are at church, and we actually did just sing a song about how Jesus died so that we could have life. Death was arrested, and if that good's empty, how much celebrating are we even doing when we're here? It's so easy to mourn the losses, but to celebrate the wins, oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm sitting at my buddy's funeral a couple of Mondays ago. Grew up with him, went to elementary school with him, died in a motorcycle accident. And his brother got up to deliver some remarks, and his brother spoke for about 15 minutes. And he spent 15 minutes running down the last 24 hours of of my friend's life only to be able to say we can celebrate today because he was close to Jesus. You know, in the midst of that morning, there was a win to be celebrated. We gotta celebrate the win. I know I'm beating on this, but I just feel like we get so lost in the negativity. You know, I can't stand Facebook right now. We're all trying to be better at putting out church stuff on Facebook. Like, that's a thing that we're trying to do. We're trying to stay on top of sharing stuff on Facebook. So I'm on Facebook all the time now because I'm trying to tell you about what Jesus is doing in this church, and it's just straight negativity. One side's a bunch of Nazis, and the other side's a bunch of conspiracy theorists, and the other side, just shut up. Let's let it go. How about the fact that because you guys are faithful Christians, because you guys love Jesus, and because you want to see Jesus' light shown in this county, we're able, as a church, as a family, to give over the course of 10 years $1 million to Lifestyles. That got half of an applause earlier. You'd be jumping out of our seats. We should have been the ones that broke the roof, not the AC. You know? Got to celebrate the wins. Verse 25. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard the music and the dancing, and he called one of his servants and asked him, "What is going on?" "Your brother has come home," he replied, "and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound." The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, "Look, all these years I've been slaving for you, and I've never disobeyed you. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him." "My son," the father said, "you're with me always, and everything I have is yours." But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and he's found. You have to have high standards. This other son worked. He said, "I slaved in the fields for you." This father must have had high standards. You know, the oldest son is always the most faithful and amazing. I'm the oldest. So, no. Then he must have had high standards. This son bought into his dad and said, "I'm in this. I'm going to build this family. I'm going to be a part of this family." He bought in. There must have been high standards because he said, "I'm slaving for you. I've worked for you. I've been faithful for you. I've done all this." You have to have high standards. You have to love unconditionally. Now, that's a tough one, right? That's a tough one because high standards. Okay, a lot people tend to go one side or the other on this one. They either have high standards or they love unconditionally. Having high standards means that you're kind of not nice to your people around you, really, sometimes, right? The people who are like all high standards people, like everybody calls them sir. You know what I mean? But then the people who they're like, "Oh no, I just want to love unconditionally," it's hard to take them seriously because they're drawing bunnies and rainbows and butterflies all the time. You get what I'm saying, though. Those people. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just trying to draw a picture, a caricature, really. You have to do both. You have to have high standards, but you have to love unconditionally. So when I was in college, I acted a fool. I did. But it wasn't horrible. But I acted a fool, and so I ended up going off to South Carolina because it was kind of like, "Look, I'll pay for you to go to college, or you can get an apartment here and pay for it yourself." That was kind of how things ended. I deserved it. Long story short, okay, just real quick through that. I ended up going to South Carolina to go to school. And kind of I knew that I was in this place where this was kind of my last chance. I had messed up college a bunch, and I knew this was my last chance. I come home, and I had a breakdown. I talked to my dad. I've told this story a bunch of times, but I talked to my dad, and I had messed up a lot. And I knew my dad is a man who expected a lot from me. Now, he doesn't drive it down my throat, but he expects a lot from me because to whom much is given, much is expected. And I've been blessed. So I had to tell him, I can't do this anymore. I'm not thriving. I'm falling apart. I can't finish school down there. It's not working. And that was a terrifying moment. And he looked at me and he said, okay, go pack up and come home. And then it's not like the standards went away. I had been kicked out of the house. I slept on a single bed and had like half a dresser for like 3 years, okay? Like the high standards didn't go away. It was like, hey, remember, But I got to come home. And then he helped me get a job. And I remembered the high standards, and I remember that I carry his name and that where my foundations are. And so then I get this job. He helped me get this job, and this job is with his friend. So I'm thinking I got to do a good job. I got to take care of my family's reputation. But then I kind of got to a place where I was like, that's not really what I want to do anymore. I'm not sure what I want. And I knew all along God had called me into ministry. So then I end up in a conversation with my dad, and next thing you know, he opens up a job for me to do what God had called me to do. I'm blessed. Like I said, I'm blessed. I know. I don't deserve the things that I have. So I end up doing that, and now I'm in this place where like my life is amazing. But it's because I had a dad and a mom who tried to live in the balance between high standards and unconditional love. And they were able to bring me along in that. I'm not saying that my family's perfect or my parents are perfect, and if you think they are, like, come to dinner. But what I'm saying is I had parents that were committed. This is all I have to draw from. I'm not a parent yet. There's a baby right here on my wife, and it's moving all around and making it look like she got an alien growing in her. But I don't have a family yet. She's not here. I'm not holding her. I don't guess I'll be feeding a whole lot early. But anyway, anyhow, I don't have that yet. But I have the experience, and I guess what I'm trying to say to you is this: I can't tell you how to build a strong home, but I can tell you that these four tensions, trying to live in these four tensions and grow in these four tensions, that's what I watched happen for 28 years. And I'm not all that great, but things have turned out really well for me. And not in a braggadocious way. I just love my life. And I have a beautiful wife. And I have a little girl on the way. I have no house right now. That sucks. We moved out. We sold our house. But, it's been amazing. And so I guess what I'm trying to tell you is this. I said that already, but what I'm trying to tell you is you're not necessarily going to get... Y'all are okay if I just call him my dad for a second? My dad's not going to get up here and tout the way that he was a parent or the way that he helped build his family or any of that. He's not going to do that. That's not how he is. Because he would never want to take the place of Jesus and be celebrated. But these are the lessons I learned from watching him. That living in these tensions, we're not perfect, but it's built a strong family, and we all love each other, and we all hang out together, and we smile and we laugh. And our family's grown. We've added, a wife, girlfriend's parents. We got a little baby on the way. It's grown, but it just gets stronger. Build strong foundations. but leave room for the stupidity. Because if you don't leave room for the stupidity, you don't even leave room for yourself, right? Don't be weak, but also have grace when grace is needed. You know what we call that? Not burning bridges. Mourn the losses and celebrate the wins. Daggone it, go buy a cake. Buy some ice cream, Have fun. If you got a little kid, don't take them to Chuck E. Cheese, though, because that's insane. That's just training for Las Vegas, and that ain't right. Have high standards, but also love unconditionally. Those are just lessons I've learned from watching. I hope it helps. Can I pray for you? God, I want to thank you for this family. I want to thank you for this church. I want to thank you for my family. God, it's been a great blessing to always have a home base. I couldn't ever deserve it, but Lord, I just pray that you would help me build a strong home base for my family. God, I pray that you'd help every single person in this room build a strong home base for their family. God, I pray that coming out of tonight, that hopefully parties get planned. I pray that coming out of tonight, that hopefully, fences get mended, bridges get rebuilt. God, I hope that coming out of tonight, that mostly, God, I just hope that tomorrow there's a lot of really good family time, and that we take the time to just thank you. And Lord, for those of us who maybe don't have much of a family anymore, I pray that they find it here. I pray that somebody offers to take them out to dinner tonight. I pray that this becomes a second home. God, I thank you for New Life Church. And when I say I thank you for New Life Church, I mean I thank you for the people that populate it every Sunday morning and every Saturday night. God, we love you. We're so excited about what you're doing. And we just want to thank you for being able to be a part of this. And Lord, I just pray that more than anything, God, that we can be faithful all the time. We love you. We thank you. Amen.